So now I'm only going to speak English. Adesso parlo solo inglese. A few words on the program of this evening. First of all, you're all most welcome to be with us. We're happy to have people from all across the globe, from different European countries, from the United States, Canada, from different countries in South America. I don't have the complete list. This is pretty exceptional, but even though it's very late for some people, we have people from Australia who have logged in. So welcome to everyone. A special welcome to His Excellency Bishop Marcuso, Auxiliary Bishop Emeritus of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. We're very honored to have you with us. Also, Rabbi David Sanmel from the International Jewish Committee on Interreligious Consultation. Thank you for being with us, Rabbi David. Some of us know you here. Warm welcome to Father Michael Kolarczyk, the rector of the Biblicum, Father Diego Cucarella, the president of the PISAI. We're also very honored to have Mrs. Aldegonde Brenningmeier with us. Father Michael McFarland from the Gregorian University Foundation, and a special welcome to the Sisters of Zion who are following our evening. The Sisters of Zion were very active participants of the Cardinal Bea Centre in its beginning, and have entrusted the Gregorian University a huge fund of books on Judaic Studies, and so we thank them for being here. We will have two sections this evening. The first section will be a presentation of the Licentiate, so we'll have a word of salutation by the rector of the Gregorian University, who I thank for being with us this evening. I will explain more concretely what the Licentiate is and how it works. And Father Norbert Hoffmann, who's the Secretary of the Commission for Religious Relations with the Jews at the Pontifical Council for the Promotion of Christian Unity, is with us, and he will also explain how, in his view of things, this Licentiate can be a help in Jewish-Christian dialogue. So thank you for being with us, Father Hoffmann. And we'll finish this first part of the evening with a Q&A. Free questions and comments on the Licentiate. This will be for the first 50 minutes, more or less, maximum 50 minutes. And then we'll have a teaser of our program of the Licentiate, which means two professors from the Cardinal Bea Centre, Professor Rabbi David Mayer and Professor Massimo Gargiulo, will discuss together a short text from the Talmud and a short text from a church father. This will be more or less half an hour to conclude our evening. So, Father Gonzalez, rector of the Gregorian University, thank you for being with us.
Buonasera a tutti, cari professori, cari studenti.
Good evening, everybody, dear professors, dear students, and dear guests. I would first of all like to express my deep joy as rector of the Pontifical Gregorian University for the new academic program of the Cardinal Bea Centre for Judaic Studies, which is presented today publicly. The approval of the new license in Judaic Studies and Judeo-Christian relations on the part of the academic authorities of the university and by the Congregation for Catholic Education is the achievement of a goal which has been dreamt and prepared with care and enthusiasm. Having attained such a goal is a deserved recognition of all the preceding work, in particular through the annual diploma and the biennial diploma in Judaic Studies and Judeo-Christian relations. And the work has stood out for being extremely thorough and of academic value, and therefore we have a full academic recognition of an important educational program with the possibility of providing the students attending the course a canonic level, which is more easily recognizable and usable. This new license, therefore, is a goal which derives from a solid basis, the work of the Cardinal Bea Centre over the years. However, we want this moment not just to be a goal achieved, but an opportunity to re-begin with new momentum towards new goals, because we want to consolidate the work already accomplished, explore it more deeply, and open new horizons. The challenge is that the new license may further explore and consolidate in an innovative way cooperation between Christian and Jewish lecturers in teaching and in research. I'm also sure that on this basis the new license may attract a growing number of students. With this renewed commitment, the Gregorian University shows that it holds dear to dialogue, brotherhood, and friendship. The recognition of our mutual goals is essential in order to walk together, and this is this walking together of Jews and Christians which we want to live, make visible, and bear witness to. At this time, when a new stage begins, I wish to express my congratulations to the Cardinal Bea Centre, to its director, Father Etienne Witte, to the lecturers and to the students, and I also wish to express my confidence in their work. I also wish to thank the Congregation for Catholic Education for the trust which they have given to us, the Pontifical Commission for Religious Relations with Judaism for its invaluable support, and the benefactors of the Cardinal Bea Centre, who with their generosity make it possible to carry out our everyday work, which has led us to this goal. Thank you to all of you.
Grazie Padre Rettore per queste parole di incoraggiamento. Thank you, Father Rector, for these encouraging words, and heartfelt thanks for all the support and help you've given us in the process leading to the Licentiate. It would not have happened without you, and we're very grateful for this. Now, as director of the Cardinal Bea Centre for Judaic Studies, my task is to present more concretely what this Licentiate is, its outlines and its curriculum, and its raison d'être, its reason for existence. I would like to start by underlining the fact that it is truly, I think without exaggeration, it is a historical moment. It's the first time in the history of the Church, in 2,000 years of Church history, that there is a canonical licentiate, so a licentiate, a diploma recognized by the Holy See at this level of Jewish studies and Jewish-Christian relations. So a milestone. And as the Father Rector just said, on the one hand, it is a recognition by the Congregation for Catholic Education of all the work that has been done in the past 20 or so years at the Cardinal Bea Centre for Judaic Studies of the Gregorian University. It's also, in a deeper way, a sign of the times, in the sense that it's a recognition of the significance of learning about Judaism and Jewish-Christian relations as part of a Christian training. It means that the congregation recognizes, justly so, that relation to Judaism is an intrinsic part of being a Christian. We often say that Judaism are the roots of Christianity. This is true, but we have to think about what we're saying when we say roots, because most people thinking about roots think about their past. But the roots of a tree are the present of a tree. The roots of a tree are what gives the sap right now. And here, this means that Judaism and the Jewish people are not only the past, but are also what gives now sap to the tree of Christianity. And how do we find this sap? 35 years ago, exactly 35 years ago last week, Pope John Paul II went to the Great Synagogue of Rome, which is about 10 minutes away from here, and he said many important things, but one of the important things he said was Judaism, in a certain way, is not extrinsic to Christianity. In a certain way, it's intrinsic, in the sense that it's not, the relation we have to Judaism is not the same relation we have to any other religious tradition. It's a unique relation. What does this mean? This means concretely that, for example, we cannot understand the New Testament without its context. It means, for example, and these are exegetical, biblical discoveries of these past 20, 30, 40 years, not more, that we are realizing, reading the text attentively, that Jesus observed Shabbat, that Jesus ate kosher. We are realizing also, historians tell us more and more, that the fathers of the church were actually in contact with rabbis, and sometimes there were interactions with rabbis, for example, asking about difficult scriptural texts. And during our discussion at the end of this presentation today, we'll have an example of one of the church fathers, two church fathers, who ask rabbis for their opinion to solve difficult scriptural questions. And I think it's important also to realize that Judaism is not only the Judaism of what we call the Old Testament. Judaism has a long, living, rich 2,000-year tradition since that period. And these riches, if we Christians are able to receive them, illuminate our reading of the texts we have in common, which is a great percentage, the major part of our scriptures. A Jew would probably not say everything I've just said about what I've said about Judaism. A Jew would probably not say about Christianity. But we are also realizing that Judaism in these past 2,000 years has been greatly influenced also by Christianity, has been interacting with Christianity. And so, in a certain way, I think the first point to keep in mind is the Congregation for Catholic Education is signifying that we cannot understand Christianity without studying Judaism. And I think we can also say that it's impossible to fully understand present-day Judaism without studying Christianity. Now, I'm going to be more concrete about the program. This Licentiate is a two-year master's level program, but this also is unique in the sense that in many places there are very serious studies of Judaism, but in most Catholic universities or most universities, it will be just a smattering of courses. And the other extreme is to study in a rabbinic seminary or to do a full 10-year program on Judaism. What we propose is really serious. 2 full years is really a lot. It allows for a first overview of everything, but it also means that it won't take 10 full years of your existence. So it's unique in this sense. It's a real master's degree, a real licentiate. The curriculum has 2 main orientations. The first one is Judaic Studies. It's actually the most of the 60 to 70% of the classes are in Judaic Studies, which means the history of the Jewish people. It means Jewish prayer and liturgy. It means Jewish philosophy. It means Hebrew, of course. It means contemporary Jewish thought. It means Jewish art and literature. So we try to cover, as I said, a first overview of different disciplines that allow us to understand Judaism. The other orientation, the other track is Jewish-Christian relations, which means the history of Jewish-Christian relations, the history of our relationship, the history of the way each tradition has considered the other tradition, and also the way that this relation and the new understanding we have of this relation impacts our perception of ourselves. I'll speak for the Christian side. We are trying to develop a Christian theology of Jewish-Christian dialogue. And I can give one example, very concrete example. The Catholic Church recognizes that the Jewish people has not been replaced by the Church. So the Jewish people cannot be said to not be the people of God. Sorry for the translators, that was a double negative sentence. But in that case, what do we do with the Catholic teaching of the Church as people of God? And this is a question, and one of the many questions, that are one of the future paths of theology, of Christian theology in the 21st century. A significant aspect also of the way this licentiate works is the fact that practically half of the faculty are Jewish scholars. So we have Jewish and Christian scholars teaching together, researching together, studying together. We also have some Jewish students. Most of the students are Christian, but we have some Jewish students. And we have a special agreement with, a special partnership since the beginning with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, with an exchange of professors and an exchange of students. This is really one of the pillars of the way the Cardinal Bea Centre works, and thus also the way this licentiate will work. We were honored to be received in audience by Pope Francis about 2 years ago, and Pope Francis insisted on this aspect of teaching in tandem. I'm going to quote Pope Francis. He addressed the professors of the center saying, "You are teaching in an environment where your very presence represents a novelty and already sends a message." Actually, he was speaking there to the Jewish professors. So I repeat, the Pope says to the Jewish professors, "You are teaching in an environment where your very presence represents a novelty and already sends a message. How can we introduce students to authentic dialogue without knowledge from within? Dialogue calls for hearing two voices, and the witness of Jewish and Catholic instructors who teach together is worth more than many speeches." I remember asking one of the Jewish scholars who teaches at the Bea Centre, we'll hear him afterwards, so I hope I'm not repeating his words in a mistaken way, but Rabbi Meir, when I met him first, I asked him, "Why are you teaching in a Catholic university?" Why would you do that? And Rabbi Meir said, well, at first I thought it was important for Christians to, and he didn't say finally, but I understood maybe, to finally know something about Judaism. And then he said, but now, with the passing of the years, I see that I am learning a lot and understanding a lot about my own tradition when I teach here. And so this is my conclusion. I say, I think that what we are doing is that we're making Christians into better Christians, and I hope that the Jewish scholars and students who are here can also become better Jews, better Christians, better Jews. Something else very concrete about the program, I'm going from dot to dot, is it's in 2 languages. Well, 3 because of the Hebrew, but we will teach you Hebrew. But the program is in Italian and English, and you need at least a passive knowledge of both of the languages. But don't worry, there are Italian courses for those who would need them. To finish, just two last points. Why study Judaic studies in Rome? Why come to Rome? I would say there are 3 good reasons to come to Rome to study Judaism and Jewish-Christian relations. First of all, there is an important Jewish community in Rome. It's the oldest Jewish community in Europe. And it has a long tradition, a beautiful tradition, and it allows us to go to the synagogue, to have meetings with people who are local Romans. And this means that next to the very serious and intensive academic dimension, there also is this existential dimension. It's impossible to know the other without knowing how he or she lives, and how he or she eats, that's also very important in Rome, and how he or she prays. The second good reason, and probably Father Hoffman will confirm this, is that we're right next to the Vatican, which is where a lot of high-level authoritative Jewish-Christian relations are happening, and Jewish-Christian dialogue are happening. And this allows us to be aware of the last developments, and also to meet the important people who are in Rome or who travel to Rome and who are part of this. And the last thing is, of course, the incredible resources of the Gregorian University. The Bea Centre is just a tiny institute inside of the Pontifical Gregorian University. Students from 120 different countries, and a lot of work in biblical studies, in theology, in sociology, philosophy, history, and so on. And a special relationship with the 2 other Jesuit universities in Rome, which are the Pontifical Biblical Institute, the high level biblical scholarship, and the Pontifical Oriental Institute, which specializes in Eastern Christianity. This is also a very important point because Jewish-Christian relations is also relations between Eastern Christians and Jews and Eastern Christians, and it also helps understand or try to work out the complex situation of Jewish and Christian relations in Israel, in Palestine, and in the Holy Land. Let me add, I said it at the beginning, but we have an excellent library with a special fund that was entrusted to the Gregorian Library by the Sisters of Zion. Last question I will deal with is, who can benefit from this kind of licentiate? Well, the first thing I'd like to say is simply people who are passionate. People who are passionate about Judaism, people who are passionate about Jewish-Christian relations. But of course, it also has more practical implications. It allows to deepen both philosophical, historical, or theological questions. It also prepares well for anyone who want to work either in Jewish-Christian dialogue or in interfaith or ecumenical dialogue, or also in peace building. It is a way of learning the different skills that are useful. And of course, anyone who would like to prepare for research or for teaching is more than welcome and will benefit from this. There are scholarships. I don't know if this is a good way of concluding. There are scholarships. There are full scholarships for students who are 30 years old or under, but they're only a limited number. And there are partial scholarships that the Gregorian University can also give. So please feel free, after we listen to Father Hoffman, to ask any questions you would like to ask. Father Hoffman, please.
Dear Rector of the University, Gregorian University, dear Etienne, Director of the Bea Institute, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here because from the beginning on of my job, there was always a good collaboration between the Commission for Religious Relations with the Jews and the Cardinal Bea Centre. There were different predecessors of you, Etienne. I collaborated with them. And it was always important to collaborate with you because, you know, the Vatican is a boring administration and, and the Bea Centre is a vital and interesting academian institute with discourses and discussions. So we need consultants. You are a consultant of the Commission, and we need professors for being consulted. So the Vatican, yes, is organizing the dialogue, but we need institutions like the Cardinal Bea Institute. And when the idea came up, Etienne called me. Immediately, our commission, Cardinal Koch and me, we endorsed this idea to create a canonical licentiate. For me, it's very important, this licentiate, because now you have a certificate. Now you have something written that the people studied here. I want to quote Pope Francis in the first year of his pontificate. He said to a delegation of the American Jewish Committee that currently our commission has 3 goals. The first goal would be a collaboration in the field of charity, to be in service of the poor, the marginalized, and those who suffer. So this is a religious obligation. This was the first goal, a collaboration in this field of charitable work. A second goal, he said, finally, in order that our efforts may not be fruitless, it is important that we dedicate ourselves to transmitting to new generations the heritage of our mutual knowledge, esteem, and friendship. And this is very important for me, to involve young people. We have to involve young people and students, otherwise the dialogue will not go ahead. And our commission started in 2009 so-called emerging leadership conferences. Every 2 years, we are gathering 50 young students, Jews and Catholics, with a special theme or topic to discuss for some days. And these conferences till now were very fruitful, because the outcome is that young people then are engaging in their positions and in their where they live regarding the dialogue. So for me, the Bea Centre is very interesting and important for there are young people to study, and we need young people. Also, we have to instruct young people and to give courage to young people that they are interested in the dialogue. A third goal of Pope Francis is that we should collaborate in deepening a so-called Christian theology of Judaism. And our commission did the first step, or one of the steps, by publishing this document we published in 2015, The Gifts and the Callings of God Irrevocable. So this, I think, is a text, a basis text for discussions and for developing more and more a Christian theology of Judaism. So I would also collaborate with your institute, Etienne, to go ahead regarding a Christian theology of Judaism. So I repeat that Pope Francis had 3 goals: collaborating regarding charitable work in the charitable field, then including young people, and then deepening a Christian theology of Judaism. You know that the basis of our activity is Nostra Aetate number 4. If there wouldn't be Nostra Aetate, there would no be Bea Institute, there would be no Commission for Religious Relations with the Jews. And for me, the core statement is there that Jews and Christians, they have a common spiritual heritage. And our task is to discover more and more the spiritual heritage. So you can do it, the Institute, the Cardinal Bea Centre, on an academic level, and we can accompany this dialogue in the Vatican with our administration. So the collaboration between the Institute was very good, and I hope with this canonical license it will become better, so that we can collaborate also in future times. And I'm a Salesian, I'm also always in favor to include young people. So this was my idea also to start with the so-called emerging leadership conferences. So young people should be instructed, people should discover their own identity by knowing Judaism better. St. Augustine said, I can only love something if I know it better, and I can know something if I love it. And so the first step is to be interested in the other one. As a Christian, as a Catholic, I should be interested in Judaism. This licentiate is twofold. First, to know Judaism better, and then the second is to know Christian, Jewish, Catholic dialogue better. So I'm very happy that this licentiate could be established. We know that on a worldwide level, most of the centers for Jewish Christian learning, study, research in the United States, and in Europe we have only some institutes. And for me, because I'm living here in the Vatican, in Rome, the most important institute is your institute, the Cardinal Bea Institute. As you said, Etienne, we have a vibrant Jewish community here. We have the Vatican, and a lot of Jewish people are coming here to visit the Pope. Everybody wants to see the Pope. Also the Jews want to see the Pope. So you have here famous people, and you have people coming here to have dialogue, and of course it can be also a profit for the Bea Centre to meet these people. So I conclude, I'm happy about this canonical licentiate. I wish that a lot of young people are coming here from all over the world to study Judaism and Jewish Catholic dialogue. And me too, I'm ready to endorse your institute. And I'm inviting also the young people to come to the Vatican to me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Many, many thanks, Father Hoffmann, for these words and for the support, and yes, as you said, all the work we've been doing together. We're very complementary here with these two institutions. We have about 15 minutes for a Q&A. I'm going to try to take this in charge. Please, if you have questions, don't send them by chat. We'll take them orally. So put up your hand digitally. You know, you click on the hand, and I will single you out. But I see that there actually are 2 questions on the chat. So I will answer these questions on the chat and then allow you to join in by raising your digital hands. Of course, you can ask the questions also in English or Italian or a few other languages. We'll try to manage. There are 2 practical questions right now. One is whether the licentiate is equal to a master's degree, and the other is about the scholarships. So the licentiate has the same kind of program and the same level of program as a master's degree, but it is a diploma recognized by the Holy See. It's an ecclesiastical diploma from the Catholic Church, which means that Will it be recognized in your country? It really will depend on the agreements between your country and the Holy See. It often happens that there is a mutual recognition, and the credits are often recognized, but it's not a state diploma. About the scholarship, what does a full scholarship mean? A full scholarship means 10,000 euros, of which 2,700 are deduced to pay for the university taxes, which leaves 7,300 euros for a year of studying. But as I said, once again, these scholarships they're just a limited number of scholarships. They're for students who are 30 years old or less. The deadline to apply for the scholarship is the 26th of April, which, if I'm not mistaken, is next Monday. So you still have a bit of time. You can look at our website and you'll find the different requirements to prepare an application form. But for those who would be over 30 years old or who would not be accepted because of the limited number, know that there are also partial scholarships from the Gregorian University, which are more or less equivalent. It's quite a bit less, but it's more or less equivalent to 1,300 euros, which means the registration, the university taxes for one semester. And these scholarships can be, when they're granted for the first year, because it's a 2-year program, they are also granted for the second year. So for those who have a full scholarship, it's a second time 10,000 euros, and for those who receive the Gregorian University one, normally they can apply for and receive another semester of university taxes. There's a technical question from the rector of a university, our neighboring university, saying that usually degrees are associated with a particular faculty, and here is this licentiate granted to the Faculty of Theology or through a combination of faculties? The rector of the Gregorian University can answer this question.
Allora, la domanda è
The question
come mai
is
questa licenza, questo grado canonico
why is this
si
licentiate,
è dato da una facoltà
this
in
canonical
particolare
certificate, to
o
ask
no?
whether it comes
La
from one
risposta è
specific
questa licenza,
department or not.
questo grado
The
accademico
answer is
è
this
stato approvato
licentiate
dalla
was approved
Congregazione per l'Educazione
by
Cattolica
the Congregation
come
for
un
Catholic
grado
Education as
interdisciplinare
an
dato
interdisciplinary
dall'università nel
certificate
suo insieme,
awarded
non
by the
da una
university as a whole,
particolare
not by a
facoltà o istituto.
specific
Però la
department
gestione di
or
questo
faculty
nuovo grado
or
accademico
institute.
è
But
affidata al Centro
this
Cardinal Bea.
academic
Come tale,
certificate
è un
is
grado
managed
accademico
by the
di
Cardinal
tutta
Bea
l'università,
Centre, and
anche per
as such it is
significare
academic
l'interdisciplinarità
recognition
di questo grado
from the whole
accademico.
university, also
Quindi non è un grado in
to stress
teologia,
the multidisciplinary
è una licenza
nature
in
of this.
studi
So
giudaici
it is
come
a
tale,
licentiate in Judaic
data dall'università
Studies. It's
nel suo
not
insieme.
a certificate in theology.
I see there's another question, but this is a question coming from a student who is worrying, or maybe not worrying, but is asking whether the program of the licentiate will change. Will there be course offerings that are different from what's been happening so far? We're sure that having a licentiate will allow us to have even more professors and a more diversified course offerings, but the basic structure does not change. It's been planned in view of something like this licentiate, and one of the reasons the Congregation for Catholic Education granted us this licentiate, is because the program was adapted. There are quite a lot of people with their hands up. So I don't know in what order the hands came up, but maybe we can start with Mrs. Suzanne Brown Fleming, and I'm happy to welcome her here. She is the director of the Museum of Holocaust of Washington, Holocaust Memorial of Washington. So could you give Suzanne Brown Fleming the floor?
Can everybody hear me? Let's see if just to quickly say, I'm definitely not the director of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. I direct a small division within its Mandel Center for Holocaust Studies. So just to make sure that's clear. This is so exciting. It's wonderful to see Father Hoffman. I love the basis on the founding basis that you talked about, Father Vito. And I just want to throw out there, this could be a really exciting moment for these students, Jewish and Catholic students, to come together around this new material in the Vatican archives. There's no better place than Rome to look at these materials together and really discuss them, because though they're historical documents, they have so many theological implications as well. So as your professors plan their courses and do their thinking, I just wanted to throw out that as an idea, and also just congratulate you on this wonderful achievement.
Many, many thanks. Sorry, I gave you a title that's, well, maybe you, we're happy anyhow to have this relation with the museum through you. The Vatican Archives is really an excellent idea, and it's a treasure that we have here. The thing is that since it opened more or less at the same time as the pandemic started. And so a lot of things have been blocked, and a lot of projects have been blocked, but definitely as soon as it will be open again, I think it will be part of the things that we will benefit from here in Rome. But it's true that it's an important thing, and thank you for the suggestion. Maybe we could also work with you in this field. So Mrs. Aldegone Brenningmeier.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Very well.
I have not a real question, but I first would very much like to thank Father Nuno, who was so gracious to help the Bea to bring this Licentiate really into working. And I know there was so many meetings with the Vatican, backwards and forwards, and in the end it succeeded. And therefore I would very much like to thank the rector of the Gregoriana for this, and to make the vision really concrete now. Also to you, Etienne, my thanks for the work for this unique initiative in Rome at Pontifical University. We had many discussions about it, and I'm very thankful that you integrated me also in this discussion. And yes, I'm very proud, and I would very much like to thank you. It is even more than a dialogue. It is a real study, and as you have expressed it, an interdisciplinary study. And so therefore, I wish this new initiative all the best. And Father Hoffman, thank you also to you for your tremendous support during all these months and even years. The same is also, if you could tell Cardinal Koch also my thanks for this possibility, and that it is now really a reality. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Mrs. Brenningmeier. Thank you, Aldegonde. Thank you also for your immense support for the Cardinal Bea Centre. Maybe this will be in Italian, but it doesn't have to be, but muratore.
Sì, sì, te?
Yes, can you hear me?
Ecco, sono una domanda molto pratica che ho
Very
scritto anche nella
practical
chat.
question,
Io
which also
essendo
wrote down in the chat.
delegato ecumenico
Since
per
I'm an
l'ecumenismo e il
ecumenical
dialogo, sono molto interessato.
delegate for
Sto anche
ecumenism and dialogue, I'm very
concludendo il corso
interested,
Ut Unum
and
Sint.
I'm finishing the Ut Unum
Però essendo anche
Sint
parroco di 2 parrocchie non avrei assolutamente il
course,
tempo
but
di
I'm a
seguire
parish
interamente
priest for 2
tutto. Allora
parishes, and I wouldn't
chiedevo
have time to
se è
follow
possibile
this
iscriversi solo ad
all.
alcuni
So I'd like
corsi
to know
come
whether
uditore
is it possible
ed
to
anche se
follow a
è
couple of
possibile
courses
seguire online le
as a
lezioni.
auditor, as a listener, and is it possible to follow lessons online?
I'll answer in English. Yes, definitely it's possible to follow to just register to some classes. It's what the status is called ospite. Next year, once again, we hope that the classes will be able to be in presence, but they will also be online. So at least for one more year, it will be possible to follow classes online. There are also 2 questions in...
Grazie mille.
Okay, prego. And we'd be very happy to have people like you who are really working on the field in Jewish-Christian dialogue and in ecumenical dialogue. I see there are some questions on the Q&A, but we're going to have to wind up and go to the second part of our program. First of all, does someone need to access the Brenninkmeier-Wehrhahn scholarship? Does someone need to have already studied at the Bea Centre? I did not speak yet about the Brenninkmeier-Wehrhahn scholarship because it's not to study here in Rome. It's a very interesting program which allows students to study in Jerusalem for 6 months. But I didn't speak about it because usually it is for people who have already been studying in Rome. This is not an absolute necessity, so it is possible to send us your applications even if you have not started studying at the Cardinal Bea Centre, but usually it's for students who have already studied here. And I see a question, I'm sorry, Don Franco Buono, your question actually, it would be better to send a mail to the secretary of the Cardinal Bea Centre for this very, very precise question. It's for students who have already studied at the Cardinal Bea Centre. I think we're going to have to, I see there's 1 or 2 more questions, but I think it would be time to shift to the second half of our program. Thank you. Please, if you have other questions, you can really write them by mail to the Cardinal Bea Centre, and we'll try to answer questions as precisely as possible. So thank you so much for those who took part in the first half of this, or the first part of this evening.